Welcome and thanks for joining today's IFCN Market Intelligence Webinar, One Point of Truth. So my name is Veit Becker. I will be your host for today, and I'm glad that so many of you could make it, and we are really looking forward to a great session. Let me introduce our two presenters first. Joining us is Dr. Thorsten Hemme. He's the founder of the IFCN Dairy Research Network. And our special guest today is our second presenter. It's Dr. Erik Elgersma. He is the director at Strategic Analysis Services. And we are really happy to have Erik here today, not just because he's such a great guy, because he is a renowned market intelligence specialist. Erik, he received a PhD from the Delft University of Technology and went on to become the Director of Strategy and later the Director of Strategic Analysis at Friesland Campina. If you don't know them, they are a company with a sales volume of up to 12 billion euro per year. And Erik, he has continuously grown his expertise by attending postgraduate training at the Harvard Business School and the London Business School, to name just a few of them. Erik has also been awarded Commercial Excellence Awards from his previous employer, and he won a Semicon European Market Intelligence Award in 2016. Today, Erik is an independent consultant, a restless entrepreneur, and a well-sought-after analyst and a visiting lecturer to academia. Erik, it's great to have you. How are you today?
Very well, and an honor to be in this wonderful team.
Since IFCN itself has moved on from being a data provider, conference host only, we are now also providing market intelligence services, and that's why Erik is here today. And please, Erik, it will be very interesting to see what you have to show us.
Well, first message to all of you as participants in this webinar is that you all are aware, of course, there's plenty of data around. And sometimes it seems that all data are equal, but some are more equal than others. And there's nothing more confusing than having data but don't really knowing how to act upon them, because you don't really feel secure that these data are correct and that these data are comparable and that your sources have not deceived you into believing insights that may look nice but do not prove to be realistic, and that would take your company off course. So today, the focus is on data on dairy, where IFCN is a global leader. Thorsten, next slide, please. Now, probably your boss regularly, either when you're a boss, as quite a few of you are, or whether you're an analyst or a user, you may struggle with questions. And when the boss has a question, that question may end up on the desk of the analyst, and the analyst has a few things. The analyst has some data here, some data there. Maybe the analyst has an analysis tool. The analyst may have several data suppliers. And then the more the analyst looks at the data, knowing that time is ticking, because boss is, of course, always having an impatient character, the analyst finds out the data are mutually exclusive. So if one is true, the other one can't be true. They're conflicting. They may not be complete, and of course, they're outdated. So by that time, the analyst is already suffering from a bad headache, where the boss is getting confused, maybe having data of her own, creating uncertainty, slowing down decision-making, and both the analyst and the boss make a decision. This has to change. This requires improvement. I suppose you recognize this, and if you don't, I congratulate you with your luck, because if you're in this business and you haven't recognized this, you've been very lucky, or you have been a very long-term customer of IFCN. Next, please. So what to do? Now, whether you're a boss or an analyst or a user, normally steam will emerge from your ears, and the first thing is, I want to survive this occasion, and the next thing is, I want to ensure it doesn't happen to me again, because this is not funny. This is not how I want to make a living. So I've gone through this misery. I've had that steam coming from my ears, and then it went up and took off my hair. So if you don't want to end up bald, I would say listen to the story I'm going to share with you on how I, over many, many years, developed, say, the experience into coping with this sort of stress and avoiding it for the future. Next, please. My recommendation to all of you that do not want to have that sort of stress in the longer term, it may not be a solution for tomorrow, but it is, what we're sharing is a sort of foundation for the long term, is to accept that decision making is easier when you have only one source of the truth. And that one source of the truth starts with a data set that you trust, and it starts with another critical element, which is your top management has to accept there will only be one source of the truth. And it's the top management commitment that I see as a critical success factor. They have to identify, together with you as analysts, and if you're a boss, you have to identify the need that if your fact base is all right, your decision making will be more smooth, will be faster. And as many managers can attest to, they usually don't know a decision they took too early, but they are aware of many decisions they took too late. And we don't want, as IFCN and partners, to be market intelligence a barrier to your decision making. So our recommendation is commit to one source of the truth, and then we'll tell you how to do it. Next, please.
Yes, Erik, just one thing. There has been a person being confused. He expected more COVID dairy market intelligence. And for those people who are concerned, that will come later. We have been thinking that we first go into how to solve a challenge like Erik described, and later on we will share with you our latest finding on dairy COVID. So just be a little bit patient.
Thanks, Torsten. Our recommendation, and it also works if you're now struggling with how to handle your COVID stuff, is first to say, what data do I need? That could be market share data, that could be market size and volume, market size and value, your growth rate up or down, depending on the market you're in. Maybe it's farm data, it's customer data. You have subsequently to choose your requirements for your data. What sort of accuracy, for what countries or regions do you want the data? What products are in scope? How frequently do you need those updates to make sure that you build a history upon which you can work with one source of the truth for your customers or for your decision making? You want the whole company to have access or not? That's those sort of requirements. Then, of course, you have to select the criteria for your supplier. Things like customer service, credibility, consultancy options, convenience of use. What is the economy? What's your business case, or what's the price you believe you can afford? You assess your suppliers, and finally, you can make your choices. So it starts with supplier standardization before you end up with a standard set for your data and your one source of the truth. Next, please. If you are going to do this, my best practice experience is you have to do this in one go for your entire company, especially when that company is present in many countries. You have to make the data available to everybody in your company. If you have one source of the truth, make sure everybody considers that source as the single truth and share with everybody, probably through, say, using your company's intranet as a source, but make sure you make your data available, because you can't standardize if people can't have access to your single truth. Next, please. Next, once you have made data available, it's still useless when you don't talk about it. So make noise and do it humbly, but frequently. But make sure everybody is aware that there is now one source of the truth on, say, market intelligence topics that everybody can use for making their business plans wherever they are, whether they're in Asia, whether they're in Africa, in the Americas, in Europe, where you are doesn't matter. There is a set for everybody to use that is constantly updated, and that data set where you as a market analyst are responsible for it, and as a manager are the benefactor from, that data set everybody should use, but first they have to know. You could use e-learnings. I used e-learnings when I built this in the past in the company I worked for. You can build awareness through blogs. There's many different ways, but make sure your stakeholders inside your company know there is now one source of the truth, and let the C level do the hard work for you, because that's where you come in the next slide. It's the C level that brings the message, ideally. They need to change first, so they have to accept from now on, we only take decisions based on this one source of the truth, and then subsequently they need to lead the change. So it's not just they that do the change themselves, but once they changed, they have to lead the change as well. And they do that by exemplary behavior. In the past, I remember one of the C-level people I worked for, and I was privileged to work for, I should say, was in the top 10 of the global users of our, say, shared market intelligence system, of our one source of the truth. And because we had that C-level individual so committed to one source of the truth, all his direct reports and all his reports in general knew that they better took care of that one source, to include the one source of the truth in their own decision making, because otherwise their boss would know more than they themselves, and that may at some stage lead to very uncomfortable positions. So when the boss gives the positive example, the rest will automatically follow. Have your C-level experience the benefits, and if you're the C-level yourself, lead the change. Use the facts and lead the change. A good way for top management to do so is to make sure that top management prescribes the one source of the truth as the only acceptable information on the world around you. Once you've accepted, we have a standard supplier, that supplier meets our, say, basic requirements for data, which is accuracy, timeliness, completeness, cost efficiency, and the comparability. If that C-level, the C-level decision has been taken for to say have these drivers undermined, then of course the key point is that everybody should use it, and everybody should use it for whatever business plan they make, for whatever budget plan they make, for whatever investment decision they make. This is the single decision. And then top management comes into the luxury position that they can compare plans from different parts of the world, from different departments, because they're all based on a single view of the world today and tomorrow. And it's especially tomorrow that Torsten will cover in a minute. And that's also the connection between, say, this more methodological philosophy of how to organize this for success in your company. And now the next step, of course, is to understand that IFCN meets the criteria we just discussed in the previous slide. If you can just repeat them in the previous slide. So IFCN, in the world that I was, say, as a user, that I was confronted with and that I was working in, IFCN was such a building block because we knew we could rely on consistency and reliability, etc. In summary, if you want to, say, turn not just having a good supplier in IFCN, but also turn that into success, into consistent decision making that is fast and so timely and complete and accurate, these are the steps. I repeat them once more. Set a vision for your C-level of why this is better and how this is better. Define the standards, choose your supplier, ensure that everybody in your company has access and that everybody can benefit, and don't be too on, I can't share data because then the secrets will fly out of my company. Yes, maybe they do. On the other hand, if you don't, your decision making will suffer, and that's probably much worse from an economic perspective. Make everybody aware, make your leaders or be leaders as role model, prescribe to use no budget, no investment plans without the right source of data as, say, underlying those plans. And finally, monitor your progress, show and tell. And thank you for your attention for this piece. And I hope this will inspire you to apply it now that you're facing unprecedented uncertainty in the COVID crisis.
I would like to say is also to Erik, thank you very much. What I really appreciate about your presentations is that you're providing a structure to this, let's say, to a field that everyone uses, but it does not really have a clear, we cannot just go ahead and buy a market intelligence book, and you are providing this type of structure to everybody. And on the next slide, there is, one of these insights that you provide us with is the different levels in market intelligence. And maybe you want to go ahead here as well and describe how you see market intelligence in companies.
Just briefly, in the interest of time, what you see in companies, and it's been identified by mBrain, and I've used this diagram many times in many different occasions, is that different companies develop a different level of capability, and they tend to go through different phases from level 1 to level 5. And I encourage anyone that has a career in market intelligence or a boss that wants to take better decisions to consider which level is most suitable for you and how do you get as close as possible to world-class while retaining to be cost efficient. World-class meaning having a market intelligence function that is the sparring partner of the C-level, that is your trusted one source of the truth, and indirectly your connection with world-class data providers such as IFCN.
Yes, this is very interesting as well. What I also see is that we can at least contact you if we have more interest here, right? So we, IFCN and you, we are working together to help people, to build up this knowledge that's required to kind of build up on this market intelligence inside a company. So how does this look like?
Yeah, I think let me add one point here. When you look on competitive factors, let's talk about a milk processor, right? You have product differentiation, you have process efficiency, you sometimes have raw material cheaper than others, but there is also the function of competitiveness coming out of your market intelligence, ideally outperforming others' market intelligence in the sector. So that's a processor's view. But also from the farm input company side, there is a competition on making better decisions, smarter decisions, and there is a competition of market intelligence. And this especially pays off in times like now, which are very stormy. And once you are now an analyst, I would use these slides. We will share them with you to connect with your boss, with your senior managers and leaders of your company, saying, what can we do better on that one? And like Erik says, don't cut budgets. Don't throw away a compass in a crisis. Buy a better one to avoid any stormy waters. Fine. We have now 3 tools how people can improve the marketing intelligence out of our view. So we have the MI Block 1, which we call the IFCN Market Intelligence Seminar. We did one very successfully shortly before the COVID times in early March, a 2-day training with Erik, and it's for all companies who want to improve their market intelligence. Erik wrote a very nice book. I could strongly recommend this book to them. And we have a next webinar or next seminar planned for Hamburg in mid of October. We also have the possibility, if you want that, to run that in your company, and we are envisaging online trainings.